we went into Peru, and Peru is the Mecca of South America. It's where you do Machu Picchu, and that was what we were there for. The plan was to do the trek to Machu Picchu, and we'd done our research, and one of my good friends, Chris, he'd done it a few years earlier, and I asked him what he had done, and there's two kind of treks to do. You either do the classic Inca Trail, and the Inca Trail, it's, from what I've heard, is quite similar, the whole of the trek. It's very, you kind of see the same thing, and it's kind of one-dimensional in that way. But the Salkantay trek, which is a little bit cheaper, but it's a little bit longer, and it takes 5 days, is you basically see a lot more variety of landscapes. You get to climb through the mountains, see the cloud forest, go into the jungle. So we decided we were going to do the Salkantay trek. And I mean, it was a big decision because it was a difficult thing to do. We were warned, this is not easy. It's a hard trek. It's very difficult. We've both not really done any trekking before, but we came armed with our walking boots that we'd bought before we left. Again, a bit naive. They'd asked us if we wanted like trekking poles, and I'd said to Connie, I'm not using trekking poles, because I always see people with them, and I'm like, I'm not using them. And Connie straight away when we got there said, I think I want to use some trekking poles. So we paid for the trekking poles for Connie, and I was stubborn, being the way that I am, competitive. I opted not for them, and we left base camp with our group of people we'd just met that were all from all over the world. It was a really cool group, actually. There was like an Aussie guy that was hilarious. There was a British lad. There were 2 girls from Argentina. There were 2 girls that were living in Costa Rica. There was loads of Dutch people. When we were in South America, the people we came across the most were Dutch people. I don't know what it is about people from Holland, but they all seem to travel. And there were so many of them. So we had loads of Dutch people on this trek. And we we kind of walked straight up this mountain for about 10 minutes, and I was completely out of breath. But what they give you for the altitude over there is coca leaves from the coca plant. And you basically chew these leaves. And they work really well. They really help with altitude sickness. But it took me weeks to find out that you're not meant to swallow them. So I used to chew these leaves and then just swallow them. And you're meant to spit them out. You're not meant to swallow them. So I think most of the time I was high as a kite on coca leaves. But I absolutely loved it. And for me, that trek to Machu Picchu and doing the Salkantay trek, I imagine it's probably the closest you can get as just like your average member of the public to going on like an adventure. Because you were really going out into the wild, and we were staying in like these huts with like glass roofs, and you could see the stars. And the first day, the first test was going to Humantai Lake, which was like an hour and a half trek up this hill. At this point, we were up at like nearly 5,000 meters. You get to the top, and there's a beautiful lagoon, and it's surrounded by kind of ridged capped mountains. And you can walk up there, and it was really, really tough. And like Connie was struggling a lot with the altitude sickness. And we got up there, and it was incredible. The views were some of the best views I've ever seen in my life. And when we got back down that night, we had dinner. We all sat around together, and he kind of said, guys, now you have to make a decision whether you're going to take a horse tomorrow or you're going to walk the whole of the trek. And so straight away I was like, I'm definitely walking. I've not like come this way to get on a horse. And yeah, we made a really smart decision. Connie said like, I'm going to take the horse, which was a really like smart thing to do, because the trek we were going to do that next morning, we were going to wake up at 6, and it's called Dead Woman's Pass. And the first part of that trek, which is just half an hour, is called the Gringo Killer. So it was funny, the whole time we were in South America, we were just called gringos, which is obviously a cultural term. And so we do that first half an hour, and it was tough, man. I got to the top, and I was like, wow. I was like looking around at everybody else to see if they were struggling. Because like I am a fit guy, but it was really hard. When you're at that altitude, it feels like your lungs are going to explode. And we kind of had a little bit of a base camp. And every kind of like few hours, our guide would stop us, and we'd talk about, he'd explain some of the local plants, some of the local animals, some of the history, what the Incas would do on the trail, where they'd stop. So it was really, really cool, and we learned a lot along the way. And we stopped before this Dead Woman Pass, and then we just kind of went for it. And I decided I wanted to really push myself. So I kind of got to the front, and there was this really like uphill part, and it was just like a snake's bend, and it just went all the way up, and it seemed to go on forever. And it was really hard, and there were people like just sat on the side of like the trail, just like almost passed out. I mean, it was really tough. And I think I got to the top with another lad. We kind of like walked together, Got to the top, climbed this massive rock, stood on the top, got some photos, and then I kind of waited for Connie to come on the horse because the horses were going to leave later, and she kind of never got to that point, and we continued right to the top, and eventually she caught up. And it sounds like the horse was more dangerous because these horses were just, some of these like treks, I say like roads, they weren't roads, they were like, you could fit one person on them, and there's rocks falling off the side of cliffs. There's no health and safety whatsoever in South America. But it was funny. It was amazing seeing her come up on the horse, and they've all got bells on and stuff. And yeah, it sounds like she had I'm sure she had an amazing view from the top of the horse, and Connie loves horses. So we like met at the top, and then from that moment on, we did the whole of the rest of the trek together, and we kind of, from that point, from the top of that mountain, we went downhill, and we walked down these kind of valleys into the cloud forest, and then we spent the next 2 days in the jungle, and that was amazing, like living in the jungle, and there's monkeys and parrots, and I saw the first condor that I saw there, which was amazing, massive wingspan, insects, I saw tarantulas and all sorts. It was really cool. I just felt like an adventurer in the wild. And on the last day, we get to the town that's at the bottom of Machu Picchu, and we went out for dinner we became really good friends with the people on the trip. It was great, learnt about their life, we had a laugh, we all kind of had a beer and like had a meal, and then the next morning the guide said anybody that wants to walk the 1,800 steps up to Machu Picchu, we're going to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was like 5 of us that said yeah, we'll do it. So we set off in the dark, pitch black, walked to the base of the mountain, and then we set off, and I thought, right, this is it, the last part of the trek, I'm going to do it as fast as I can. I did these 1,800 steps without stopping. I think I did it in about 37 minutes, dead proud of myself, just sweating buckets, waited for everyone else to come up, and then we went into Machu Picchu and we saw it, and it was the most unbelievable thing. It was incredible. To think about, Machu Picchu was basically like one of the last strongholds of the Incas, and when the Spanish invaded, the Spanish never reached Machu Picchu, and what they did was they cut off all the drawbridges and almost made it impossible to get in there. And unless you knew where it was, you would never see it. It's kind of encased in these mountains, and we climbed through the clouds to get up there, and seeing that with Connie, it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and it was one of the 7 wonders of the world, Machu Picchu. And I'd already been to the Colosseum in Rome, I'd seen the Great Wall of China, I'd seen Christ the Redeemer, so I'd seen a lot of these wonders of the world, and I really want to tick them all off. So it was great to tick off number 4 and see Machu Picchu, and that was one of the things I really came to do this trip. And I'm so proud of myself, and also proud of Connie for doing that trek and that walk, because it was really hard. It was really tough.